I had to heal before I could say yes. Part 3. Healing isn't romantic. I used to imagine it would feel like a sunrise, that one morning I'd wake up, stretch, and suddenly all the weight I carried would be gone. But it wasn't like that. It was slow, messy, and sometimes so painful I almost wished I'd never started. But I had made a promise to myself, and to him, even if he didn't know it. If I wanted a future worth saying yes to, I had to do the work. The first step was therapy. I sat in a small office with beige walls and a box of tissues perched strategically on the coffee table. My therapist asked me why I was there, and I blurted out, because I couldn't say yes when the man I love asked me to marry him. Her eyebrows lifted, but she didn't look surprised. Instead, she leaned in and asked, "And what do you think that no, or silence, was protecting you from?" It was like she'd cracked open a dam. I spilled everything: my parents' broken marriage, my ex's cruel words, the way I'd built my identity around not being too much work for anyone. By the end of the session, I felt wrung out, but lighter too. At home, I started journaling more seriously. Not just scribbling feelings, but asking myself hard questions. What am I afraid will happen if I get married? What parts of me do I still not trust? What would it take for me to believe I am enough? Some nights I wrote until my hand cramped. Other nights, I stared at a blank page, unable to face the answers. But little by little, patterns emerged. I began to see that my silence at the proposal wasn't about him, it was about me not believing I was worthy of forever. I also began carving out time just for myself. I started saying no to things I used to agree to out of guilt, like hosting his friends when I was exhausted, or dropping everything to run errands for my mom when I was already overwhelmed. At first, the guilt was unbearable. But over time, I realized the world didn't fall apart when I said no. In fact, people started respecting me more when I set boundaries. I booked a weekend trip alone, something I had never dared to do. Sitting by the ocean with only my thoughts for company, I realized I wasn't afraid of solitude anymore. For the first time, I felt whole even without someone holding my hand. Of course, it wasn't smooth sailing with him. There were nights when he'd ask, "Are you ever going to be ready?" And I'd see the hurt in his eyes when I didn't have a timeline. We argued more than we used to. He admitted he sometimes felt like he was waiting for someone who might never arrive. And he wasn't wrong. That was the risk. But slowly, I began to show him the changes in me. I stopped apologizing for every small mistake. I spoke up when I disagreed, instead of swallowing resentment. I started dreaming again, about my career, about writing, about traveling, not just about us. One night he noticed, after dinner, he looked at me across the table and said softly, "You're different. Happier. More, you." It was the greatest compliment I'd ever received. Months passed. My therapist kept reminding me, healing isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. And I finally understood what she meant, because healing didn't erase my scars, it taught me how to carry them without letting them bleed onto someone else. The moment of truth came quietly, not with a grand gesture. We were sitting on the couch, legs tangled together, watching some mindless show. He turned to me, brushed my hair out of my face, and said, "I need to ask you something. Not to pressure you, but to know where we stand. Do you see us getting married someday?" This time, my heart didn't race with panic. My throat didn't close. I took a deep breath and, for the first time, I spoke with clarity. "Yes," I said. "I see it. I want it. And I'm ready now, not because I'm afraid of losing you, but because I've finally found me." His eyes widened, then softened. He didn't pull out a ring. He didn't need to. He just kissed my forehead and whispered, "That's all I needed to hear." We didn't run out the next day to buy rings. We didn't announce anything to our families. But in that moment, a weight lifted. Because I knew, deep in my bones, that when the question came again, my answer would be real, not rushed. Not forced. Not driven by fear, but a wholehearted, healed, undeniable yes. Final reflection: if there's one thing I've learned through this, it's that love doesn't just mean choosing someone else, it means choosing yourself first, so you can love without losing who you are. I used to think healing was selfish. Now I know it was the most loving thing I could have done, not just for me, but for us. And when I finally said yes, I wasn't just saying it to him, I was saying it to me. Thank you for watching. If you like this story, feel free to hit the like button and follow for more fresh topics every day.